Hello and welcome to another Views from the Valley, your weekly roundup of the news here in the United States, coming to you from the v3.co.uk offices in San Francisco. With me as ever, Shaun Nichols. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, Ian.
Right, okay, well, guess what the number one story which we're going to be talking about is, of course, it's the launch of the Apple IV and other things at WWDC, which is taking place just down the road at the Moscone Centre. Now, I live blogged the event yesterday. Shaun did the news story on it. So, okay, preliminary. iPhone, you like it?
Yeah, it's an interesting new design. Can't really see. Well, this is our old one. Basically, smooth front, smooth back, same steel band and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is going to be the screen. Apparently, I think it goes up to 9 by.
It gives you 326 pixels per inch, which is greater than the density in the human eye, or so.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's.
They're calling it retinal screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if technically it's HD. I'm not sure what the bottom line is for an HD format standard, but on that size of screen, supposedly, yes, this is supposed to be more than the eye can actually recognize or right at that threshold, so it'll deliver what people would consider HD quality.
Albeit on a 3.5-inch screen.
Yeah, it'll be on a very small screen. Interesting. It's also capable of shooting HD video formats, so
and editing as well. Yes, iMovies has come to the device. Now, I was speaking to some people about this yesterday, and a developer friend of mine was just like, "This is amazing! If you can edit on the fly, I don't need my Mac anymore." And I think that's one of the key things that came out at the iPhone launch. Was that the entire keynote was about the iPhone and related apps. No mention at all of Mac.
No.
I'm doing a comment piece about this later on in the afternoon. It'll be up on the site by the time you see this.
Oh yeah, I think I actually mentioned it in another comment.
Indeed, you mentioned it in the pre-comment piece.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're very, very happy about iPhone right now. It's actually a bigger seller. It actually contributes to more of their revenue, according to their reports, than the Mac does, which is pretty impressive, because I know at one point it was like more than half of their revenues was just from Mac business.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Macs are very expensive, high-margin machines.
Yeah, and I think it's something that, as a Mac user, it bothers me because, well, I just feel like Apple's kind of putting it on the back burner, and they really are. They've more or less conceded that it's mostly about the iPhone right now. Mac doesn't get a lot of attention. Then again, they're also basically creating a new platform with the iPhone, so it's going to be a lot more work than just maintaining or tossing a few new things into the Mac OS.
Well, this is true, and they're really working on a full sort of. They're lumping in the iPod, the iPad, and the iPhone into a single unified platform. We saw this yesterday with the iBooks announcement, where you can transfer a single book between all three without paying any extra royalties. So, I mean, we're basically getting the sort of the iOS platform is becoming Apple's key platform that it's going to be working on, and everything else, I get the feeling, is just going to fall by the wayside. I mean, that said, the actual handset itself is a thing of beauty. It really is. I mean, it's incredibly slim. I can see a lot of them being dropped. The glass frontage looks fantastic, and they've also built a stainless steel band around the outside to help with Wi-Fi. Although, if yesterday's keynote was anything to go by, it doesn't handle Wi-Fi particularly well. Twice, Jobs insisted that people turn off their Wi-Fi connections and shut down their laptops. Now, I know for a lot of journalists covering the thing, it was just like, no, that's not going to happen whatsoever.
Considering the number of people that were live blogging and all that, there was absolutely no way that's going to happen. Probably something that Apple should have considered when they were setting up for this and preparing for it.
You'd think.
Having been to several CES keynotes now, it was kind of nice to see Jobs have a Steve Ballmer moment.
He handled it very well, it's got to be said, but I get the feeling there are a couple of people in Apple's setup department who are going to be getting, if not stiffly worded emails, then a right royal
There might be one or two people getting pink slips.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, particularly considering what looks to be a mistake in the launch of Safari 5 yesterday. That was quite a weird one, because the press release went out on PR Wire, which is a standard news release wire. Then it got pulled, and the link on the Safari site wasn't doing the new code. And then it got put back up, and then the link was on the new code. No mention of Safari was made in the keynote, which leads me to suspect that someone hit the wrong send button, and they definitely are going to be facing a pink slip at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is. I mean, Apple really doesn't communicate that. They communicate a whole lot less, actually, than that. So we might not ever know what happens unless the person decides to go public with it.
I know a couple of people in Apple, I've asked them to keep their ears to the ground, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a gaffe that is going to be very costly, but maybe we're being a bit too harsh here. I mean, Apple didn't fire the guy who lost the iPhone prototype.
No, but then again, the eyes of every journalist are on them, waiting them to do that so they could slam Steve Jobs.
Yeah, but I mean,
if
that guy isn't, maybe they're kind of easing back on the executions.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, maybe they get just sent to a laboratory somewhere in central, Wisconsin, where
work camping or something like that.
Yeah. It's so. Yeah, I mean, it all looks very good, and I have to say the one thing which really struck me out of the whole thing was FaceTime. Now, this is a video. This could be the thing that kicks personal video conferencing off, but if it's handled right, FaceTime allows the new iPhone has got a camera in the front. It allows face-to-face video conferencing, but with other iPhone 4 users over Wi-Fi. Now, you can't get this over 3G as yet because they haven't sorted out the deals with the telcos. So, Wi-Fi only for this year. But based on the conversation he had with Jonathan Ive on stage, it seems to work fairly well. And for okay, how can I put this politely? Early iPhone adopters tend to have a lot to say to each other and be very proud of their devices, and I can see the early iPhone 4 adopters going nuts for this device, and particularly for the FaceTime video conferencing application. I mean, if you got a chance just to talk to other iPhone users, would you take it?
Probably not, but...
Well, yes, you're a curmudgeon, though, so,
I mean, yeah, if I'm talking to my friends half the time, I'm sitting on the couch or something and, hair's all greasy. Stuff. Or, if you're kind of like you're making plans or something, I don't know. I guess if you've got a family member, somebody who has one, could be very cool. Conferencing family. If you're away from home a lot, it could be interesting. Could be kind of cool. So there will be an audience for it. I think you're not going to see it really catch on until someone can put it into wireless broadband. And given the how do I put this? Given AT&T's handling and reaction to the iPhone's data load right now with regular 3G, there's got to be a few people staying up at night dreading how they're going to figure out how to get wireless video conferencing.
I made this point yesterday. AT&T's network can't handle the current level of voice and data calls. You add video into that, that's massive amounts of data being pushed through. So I think that's possibly another reason for the delay of putting it over telcos.
Probably the sole reason.
AT&T is going to have to really roll out some major network upgrades in the US, and also European suppliers are going to have to make sure their networks are robust enough.
Well, and it's something that we may not see until the fourth gen, either WiMAX or one of the other suggested standards really takes hold and gets adopted by a number of telcos that support the iPhone.
Well, we shall have to see. They're saying it's an open standard. I hope so, because it could really do something to boost up video conferencing. But I'm glad you brought up the next generation wireless services, because in a slight prenup, preemption of the iPhone, HTC released this. This is the EVO Sprint, the so-called 4G EVO. 4G isn't actually a ratified standard as yet. This basically uses WiMAX, and it's broken all Sprint sales records by a factor of 3 in the first 3 days that it was on sale, beating out the Palm Pre and various other handsets. Now, I've been playing with it over the weekend. We're doing a full video review at the moment. Have to say, very impressed, but a very different phone to the iPhone. This is really an entertainment device. It's got a much bigger screen than the iPhone, 4.3 as opposed to 3.5. It's got a lot of grunt under the system, and also, as we saw yesterday, you can turn it into a wireless hotspot. And there were an awful lot of these setting up little wireless hotspots in the Apple keynotes yesterday, which may have caused some problems. Sprint haven't released sales figures, but you've had a look at the phone today. You're not tempted at all to ditch the iPhone and...
I'm interested. I think I'd definitely give it a look. It's something where I'd want to spend a little more time hands-on with it before dumping my carrier and everything. I'm not currently a Sprint customer, but if I were a Sprint customer looking to upgrade, that sort of thing, it's definitely worth a look. I think right now, because there's not a lot of areas that have WiMAX enabled, especially in the US.
Very few,
It's still in a semi-experimental state, I guess is what they're saying.
And then we've got the whole LTE WiMAX debate coming up, which is that's going to leave an awful lot of hardware outdated in 5 years' time, I think.
But the geek in me really, really likes it.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of cool processing power muscle. The fact that it actually does have a WiMAX connection, even if I don't necessarily use it.
It's nice to have.
Yeah, it's nice to have. It's cool. I'm interested in the battery life.
Yeah.
I know.
Battery life, not great, it's got to be said. You'll probably have to recharge once a day, same as the iPhone.
Well, see, and this is something that I'd like to see the manufacturers be a little more honest about it. I mean, with the iPhone, as they talk about, we have, was it up to 7 hours of talk?
They said up to 6 or 7 hours of talk time, 10 hours of Wi-Fi.
Yeah, how about when you're on the 3G connection? How about when you're trying to run FaceTime? How about when you're editing video? I'm going to guess those lifespans go significantly down. I kind of like to see
I mean, with this, I charged up, I gave it a full charge on Sunday morning, went out to meet a mate for brunch, used the GPS function to find out where I was going. Then we walked to the Academy of Sciences, went round there. What can I say? We're geeks. And during that, I took 80 pictures with this, and we got out of the museum, turned on the GPS to go out and find out where we're going next, and the thing probably rolled over and died. The camera function takes a lot of power. WiMAX takes a fair amount of power. For day-to-day roaming and calling, you can probably get a day and a half's use out of it between recharges. But it does have the micro USB slot, which means that you can interchange chargers. Unfortunately, that's so new that no one in this office has got one, which is rather annoying. But we'll see how that develops, certainly. And then finally, for the slightly more laughable stroke, nonsensical stroke, bit of an excuse for us to have a laugh, LimeWire. You've been doing a story about the RIAA getting themselves into
if you're a LimeWire employee or executive, you're not really laughing about it. But if you hear some of the RIAA's claims, it's a bit laughable. Basically, they're seeking an injunction, I believe, that basically shuts down LimeWire's day-to-day business.
And freezes all their assets.
Yeah, reportedly freezes all their assets, reportedly won't let them operate their network, update the software, basically shuts the company down. And I think what was interesting was some of the reports we're hearing of what the RIAA is actually asking in terms of monetary damages. This injunction is in addition to any monetary penalty they'll get. And I know one report was
$1.5 trillion.
In
terms of, we get used to inflated damages figures in this business, but 1.5 trillion, I think that's the gross national product of... It's probably the gross national product of a major European country. I'd like to check that, but it's certainly much more than...
Yeah, I'm not sure I think the state of California's total debt right now is still less than that.
Yeah, really? Good Lord, I thought we were the debt capital of the world.
If you were to give that money to the state of California, they would be dancing in the streets.
I'm sorry, if this comes up before a jury trial and they trot that figure out, anybody with an ounce of sense is going to laugh them out of court. 1.5 trillion. Now, I know a lot of stuff gets pirated on LimeWire in particular, but this really is, going a little too far.
The RIA is they've always done this, though. And they request these outlandish sums, and then...
This goes right back to, say Operation Sundog, the first moves against hackers in 1990, when Bell South claimed that a document which had been stolen by a hacker was worth something like $88,000, and it turned out when they broke down the figures, that included the cost of the workstation to produce the document, the cost of the writer, 2 editors, the printing costs, marketing and manufacturing, and in fact was selling the document for a few dollars on their website.
Well, and the whole thing is down to scare tactics, really. Basically, you get this number put in you get this number published, you had to put down the record that, they're hit with this huge penalty, and then they're going to turn around and probably settle it for a few $1 million.
Exactly.
Out of court.
But also, this has a serious effect on enterprise, because, I know we're talking about setting a P2P system or an FTP system just for transferring files between ourselves when we're away from the office. But there are plenty of business uses for peer-to-peer software, and for LimeWire software, for that matter. I know plenty of companies who are using it in a legitimate way.
Well, I know it's one of the big means of distributing different Linux distros.
Yeah, Linux distros rely on P2P. It's a great way to get it out there. So I have to say on this one, we're going to if the RIA wins this one and shuts down LimeWire, a certain number of businesses, not to mention consumers, are going to be inconvenienced. And it also set a very dangerous precedent in terms of where we're going as an industry. If one arm of one sector of the industry can shut down an entire technology, then I think we've got serious problems. Anyway, you can read more about these and other stories at www.v3.co.uk.